Good afternoon. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. The New York Knicks run toward a championship will finally include a loss as they fall last night to the San Antonio Spurs. We will break it all down. Kyle Soppe will join us. We'll get into what is going on in the NBA. Naturally, we'll talk some baseball here on the show. Peter Apple will be with us as well. And a very pivotal game in the Stanley Cup Finals will drop the puck tonight, as they say. George Kurtz will join us on the show a little bit later to go over the finals, of course, in the National Hockey League, Vegas and Carolina. But let's get started with the NBA. Bit of a surprise last night. The Spurs beat the Knicks at Madison Square Garden. And certainly they looked like they deserved it. They were winning for the majority of the game, 115 to 111. The Spurs were 1.5 road favorites and end up knocking off the Knicks. They had won 13 games in a row in the playoffs. And now the Spurs trail 2-1 in the series. How did it happen? Wemby had a big game. He had 32 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 blocks. But Steph Castle off the bench was huge, 23, 5, and 5. So let's hear from the head coaches on the Spurs getting back into the potential of a 7-game series, which is what we're all hoping for. Here is Mitch Johnson.
I thought we made some strides in terms of the ball movement and playing with our teammates, setting screens, trusting the basketball would find the right guy for our shot. I thought we showed better poise at times. I thought we finished the game still with some things that need improvement, but stronger than we did the last few games, first 2 games. And I just thought we were in attack mode, but also as a collective group. And I thought it showed itself in terms of something would happen, whether it was initial action or a guy trying to get to the paint. And if they didn't have a clear advantage, they were looking for their teammates. And because we were doing that throughout the night, it was much clearer for their teammates to expect where the ball was going and when it was going to get to them and then what to do with it when it got to them.
You mentioned the stagnancy offensively.
Yeah.
What do you feel like led to that, and what do you feel like kind of didn't seem like quite as much involvement from Carl in general there on the offense? What did you feel like led to that as well?
We were just playing a lot of drag into what we call, summertime, which is just kind of ball movement, body movement. And we just wanted to stand and watch one guy dribble a ton. And then when the ball got passed, there were no quick decisions by the guy receiving the basketball. So we have actions we can get into that we didn't do a good job of getting into, first of all, but it's okay because you're not going to be able to run plays all the time, especially with how physical they are playing defensively. Sometimes you just got to go by guys, but you got to be smart. You got to take care of the basketball. You got to space right. You got to move the ball. You got to move bodies, and we've done that, quite a bit, and we didn't do a good job of it tonight.
Meanwhile, as I mentioned, Stephon Castle also big in the win. Is there any relief after winning a game in the series? Not so fast.
0-3 hole would have been a pretty deep hole to get out of. What's the relief to get one?
I don't know. I don't know if I would say relief. I feel like we still haven't really done anything. Obviously, we're still down 2-1, and we're looking forward to the next 48 minutes. But, whether we won or lost this game, the series wouldn't have been over for us. So, obviously, it feel good. It feel good to win, especially on the road after dropping, two bad ones. But, I think our confidence has, been the same throughout this series, regardless of what happened. So, I feel like we're just looking forward to the next 48.
And on the flip side, Jalen Brunson has a good game for the Knicks, but just came up short. They finally suffered a loss, and this one was at home. Here's Brunson after the game on bouncing back next game.
You guys have not lost a game in quite some time, and there's nothing good about losing a game. How do you take this feeling, put it in a box, and put it towards game 4?
I think win or lose as a team, our mindset is always getting better the next day. And so we've done our best to try and learn from wins over the past couple of weeks. But now we have to learn from a loss. But I think the most important thing is that we were going to learn regardless, because we know there were things that we were going to have to improve on going into next game. So mindset stays the same.
We'll see if the Knicks rebound in Madison Square Garden coming up tomorrow night. But as of right now, the Knicks are still light favorites, -1.5 at home over the Spurs. The odds came out, of course, after the game last night. Total of 216.5 in this one. Again, we've got another game ahead of us coming up tomorrow night in the NBA Finals. They'll play Game 4. And by the way, the Knicks are still heavy favorites to win, but not -500 anymore. They're -184 to win the series and win the NBA championship. Meanwhile, last night at altitude, the Las Vegas A's, so to speak, found out potentially what this team could be looking at when they end up playing regular season games there in a couple of years and they open up a new stadium. 29 runs scored at altitude yesterday. Felt like Coors Field. The Brewers do win as road favorites, but a lot of home runs were hitting this one. Nick Kurtz hit 2. Tyler Soderstrom hit 2. Shea Langoliers hit 1. So did William Contreras. And so did Jake Bowers. It felt like it was home run derby last night. And that's a tough one for Kyle Harrison, who is having such a great season, but naturally said it's going to be tough to pitch in that environment.
Yeah, can you take anything away from tonight?
It's tough to say, right? I mean, you watch that game. Yeah, I think it's just kind of flush it, move on to the next one. Obviously, not the best stuff, not the best locations with the stuff. So, yeah, just chalk it up on crappy day in Vegas. That's it. No, just one of those things. Well, once something gets rolling bad, right, like it kind of all comes to fruition, right? So, it's just got to be better in those situations. Not giving in, and tough to do in a spot like this. So.
Also, the Yankees win on a big Cody Bellinger hit in the 10th inning to give the Yankees a 7-5 win over the Cleveland Guardians. Goldschmidt also homered in this game. Gavin Williams, great starter for Cleveland, didn't have his best game, but it was okay. 5 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, 5 strikeouts, but it took all 10 innings to get the Yankees the win. Here's Aaron Boone on legging it out in the 10th.
It seems like you're taking an exhale after that one.
Yeah. Wasn't pretty, but very gritty. A lot of really winning things that guys did, and everyone obviously involved except Cruiser. Yeah, it's a really tough team over there, and to get the lead, have it go away and kind of hold the line enough, and just a lot of winning plays there to get us to the finish line.
Padres get a much-needed win over the Cincinnati Reds yesterday, 6-2. They win as home favorites. They were down 2-1 and came all the way back thanks to Samad Taylor. He's been one of the young heroes for the Padres recently. In fact, Taylor went 2 for 4, drove in 3 runs, RBIs in the 7th and 8th. Here he is after the game on coming through.
Samad, when you showed up, you said you wanted to be a spark plug. It feels like you were every bit of that tonight. How did you have such an impact on this game?
Just try to stay level-headed. You try to do too much, the game will speed up on you. It's the big leagues. Everybody's doing their thing. I just came here, try to do my part, and like you said, be a spark plug. The engine doesn't run without a spark plug, so that's what we're here to do, and I'm gonna keep doing it. See where we roll.
Rays beat the Red Sox by a final of 3-1. Boston still having a hard time scoring runs. Yandy Diaz hit a home run for Tampa Bay in this one. And also the run for Christopher Sanchez continues. The Phillies win as road favorites. Sanchez 7 innings pitched, 2 runs, 10 strikeouts, Phillies 5, and Blue Jays 2. Meanwhile, in the National Hockey League, we've got another game to discuss tonight, 8:20 p.m. Eastern. It will be the Hurricanes and Golden Knights. If you've been watching, it's been a fantastic Stanley Cup final. As of right now, Vegas leads the series 2-1, but you can see the odds in this game. They are toss-up games. They have all been close. Total of 5.5, and as of right now, it should be a compelling fight to the finish between these two teams. And in fact, coming up a little bit later in the show, George Kurtz will weigh in on who potentially can win tonight. Let's take a quick time out here on NewsWire. We come back next. Kyle Soppe is in the house. The Spurs get a win. Is it enough to push them to a win in Game 2? Find out next.
lot of talk has been about sports betting handle being down or flat, right, because of the threat of prediction markets and the growth of them. But we've seen Kalshi actually kind of plateau for the first time in recent memory. Looking at a graphic right now, we've had the spike for the Super Bowl, and then this is usually when things die down. Yes, there's March Madness, but usually sports betting handle kind of goes down over the course of the spring and summer until we get back to football season.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
That's for Abdul Carter. Hey, son, you want to be a leader? Show up to meetings on time. Don't be late to practice. This guy's sitting there trying to tell me that he's got a problem with Jackson Dart going to a Trump rally when he can't even show up to a meeting on time? And he can't show up to practice and he's late? Dude.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
This is all about headlines, Donnie. If we hear, if that noise gets louder as we get closer, then 45 cents is going to be 65 cents, and that's the repricing we're talking about. I don't need Utah to get him. I need people to think Utah is going to go up and get him, Donnie, and that's how you make money.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
Craig Carton along with Tyrone Johnson. We got great news for you. CraigCartonShow.com. And Tyrone, what do you get if you go to that amazing website?
Well, right now you can subscribe to our upcoming newsletter. You put in your email address, and then bang, you'll get all the new Craig Carton Show content when it arrives.
Not just that, you also get merch drops, exclusive content, and appearances. So again, one more time, that website is CraigCartonShow.com.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I was selfish last night. I don't care who wins the NBA Finals, but I wanted San Antonio to win a game. You know, like I wanted a series, and now I'm not going to complain anymore because I guarantee that we have 5 games. Let's bring in Kyle Soppe, who joins us now here. That was my feeling, Kyle. If it didn't happen last night for San Antonio, then I would have wanted it to happen on Wednesday night because no one wants to see a sweep in a championship of any kind. You don't want to see blowouts in sports. I don't know how the series is going to go from here, but call me satisfied now after watching yesterday.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And as an NBA fan, I just don't want the season to end. Like, forget sweep, forget non-competitive, all that stuff. If I can get this thing extending another week or two, and like you said, you're happy now, and I think we've got one that's coming down to the wire here. I don't think this thing's going to be over in 5 games. I don't think this thing's going to be over in 6. I think we're going the distance. I liked what I saw from San Antonio. And realistically, we've had 3 coin flip games. One team's going to win 2 of them. One team's going to win 1 of them. So we're kind of right where we should be. I think this thing's going the distance.
How do you think San Antonio was able to win this one? I watched the game probably more intensely than I've watched a lot of the other games, but it just seemed to me that the game was like back and forth for a long time. But then it felt as San Antonio, very similar, by the way. Kyle, I don't know about you. It felt like the Oklahoma City game to a degree. It felt like they were never in full control, but in control just enough to close it out.
I think that's well said. It's something about this young team being on the road, and they're just obscenely comfortable for this youth and inexperience being in that spot. They funneled everything through Wemby, and I think, you know, it's not complicated analysis, but I think it's right. He had more assists and fewer turnovers last night than he had in the first 2 games combined, and that's the kind of production we're going to need out of maybe the best player in the world, and I think they really dodged a bullet here. New York, they get the shooting from Josh Hart. He hits 4 threes. That's not going to happen again. OG shooting 70% from the field. I don't know if that's going to happen again. He's great, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that's happening again. And then Jalen Brunson cancels out Wemby with the points. All of that happens, and the Knicks are plus 10 in transition, and the Spurs still get it done. So I think if we're looking back, and this is Spurs in 6, Spurs in 7 kind of thing, you're looking back at Game 3 as a turning point as to why the Spurs were able to come back.
All right, so what was your take on the way that Jalen Brunson played? I thought he came up with some huge shots, some crazy shots too, some acrobatic stuff there. But I mean, this is one of those cases where if the Knicks can't get contributions from anybody else, and you see this sort of stat line, and by the way, Brunson's been under 50% shooting in all the games, in the NBA Finals. I mean, 32 is enough to get it done, but didn't get a ton from anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, it was enough to get it done in game one where he scores 30 points on 31 shots. This is kind of New York's build. Right now, they've got three guys combining for about 60% of their makes. That's not like the Heatles or anything, but it's roughly what OKC did last year. This is an awfully concentrated offense, and that's great when it's working, but when it's not, it's not. And San Antonio's starting to put Dylan Harper out there for a bigger and bigger and bigger role. He's given Brunson all kinds of fits here. Brunson's going to get his, like in the props market, betting. It's hard to fade him in that regard because of the raw volume, but this is an awfully simple New York offense going against an awfully talented defense. That's a rough combination over the course of 2.5 weeks.
Wemby 32-8-6. If he puts up these numbers and that PRA, if it goes over like this every game, then you're right, Kyle. This is going to go 7 games, but unfortunately for him, he's going to need to probably do this. That's what's required to win an NBA championship.
Yeah, and it's the efficiency that I think was key there. Only with a 1 turnover, 11 of 18 from the field, like you can see there, and only 4 3-point attempts. Not that I'm against him stretching the floor, but if he's getting 10, 12, 14 looks inside the paint, I mean, the dude's as tall as the basket. He's going to make a lot of those. I don't care what anybody's doing about it. And so I liked what I saw more from him last night than I had in either of the 2 games, and realistically most of the series prior here, shooting over 60% from the field with that sort of usage. You're right. If he does that, they're winning 3 out of the next 4 and they're NBA champions.
All right, so it sounds to me, and again, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, that you're going to take San Antonio tomorrow night. It sounds like you are, and you think this series is getting tied up at 2. Right now, the total is 216.5, and it feels like the point spread's going to be irrelevant by the time they tip off tomorrow night. I think it'll probably be down to 1 or maybe pick. But go ahead. I don't want to take the words out of your mouth here. You go ahead.
Now, we've talked enough about this series. You know where I'm at here. I've got him just over a coin flip at home. I make the Spurs under a point favorite when they're on the road, and I put them, over 2.5, 3, that range when they're at home. So I am going to pick them to win this game. I'll take the points because this game's been a coin flip with 3 minutes left every step of the way. So if it gets up to 2.5, which I've seen in some places, that's even more appealing. I'll take it against the number. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm not betting +1.5, +1 if I don't think they win the game outright. So yeah, this thing's going even, going back to San Antonio over the weekend.
We'll show you the odds real quick, and the Knicks are down now to -184. They were -500 after winning game 2. The Spurs, you can still get plus money on, and so if you agree with Kyle's assessment, this is probably your last plus money of the series if you decide to do that. Let's move on now, Kyle, to the MVP of the NBA Finals, where it appears to be a 3-player race. I think that's fair at this point, although I don't know which 3 it's going to be at all. Brunson, Wemby, Karl Anthony Towns. I assume now I'm at the point where I'm going to have to relent and say if San Antonio wins, then I think Wemby wins, because we're 3 games in. I can't really make a case for anyone else, but the Knicks is tight.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. If you're betting the Spurs to win the series, you might as well just go with Wemby, tack on an extra 10 cents, and be on your way there. Going into game 3, everybody thought it was Cat over Brunson, and I get it, but I just don't see a world in which they win 2 more games in this series with Karl Anthony Towns being their best player. So Jalen Brunson would be my pick there if you're going with the Knicks. He's the favorite on the board for a reason. That gap did close in a monster way because he scores another 32 points, and Cat was invisible at points last night. But yeah, I think we're kind of where we started. If you like the Knicks, you go Brunson. If you like the Spurs, you go Wemby. It's not for me. I'm going to go game by game here and just realistically keep backing the Spurs.
Last thing, Kyle, before we close the book on the NBA, at least for today, do you feel like there is no home court advantage at all in this series? It sure feels like it.
Yeah, no, I think at this level, the teams are so talented and so honed in on what they're doing. Maybe there's a home court advantage for the first 4 minutes and the last 4. But yeah, for the middle 40 there, I'm not feeling it. We go to the Garden, it's crazy. And the young Spurs realistically dominate the game and walk off with the win. So if there's not none, it's certainly less.
Kyle, let's do this. We'll keep you around here. We'll hit on your favorite World Cup selection, and then we'll touch on some baseball here as we continue on NewsWire. As Kyle Soppe sticks with us, we'll preview a couple of games, including the Pirates and Dodgers. Don't go away.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Terrible start last year, injured all the way through, didn't have a chance to win that Major League Baseball season. This year, first team to 20 wins, first team to 30 wins, first team to 40 wins. It's all been the Atlanta Braves. Good baseball club lurking around here.
They still have some guys, some starting pitchers on the shelf there that could help them down the road, but the Braves are sitting pretty right now.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
That's for Abdul Carter. Hey, son, you want to be a leader? Show up to meetings on time. Don't be late to practice. This guy's sitting there trying to tell me that he's got a problem with Jackson Dart going to a Trump rally when he can't even show up to a meeting on time? And he can't show up to practice and he's late? Dude.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Well, the talk has been about sports betting handle being down or flat, right, because of the threat of prediction markets and the growth of them. But we've seen Kalshi actually kind of plateau for the first time in recent memory. Looking at a graphic right now, we've had the spike for the Super Bowl, and then this is usually when things die down. Yes, there's March Madness, but usually sports betting handle kind of goes down over the course of spring and summer until we get back to football season.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Kyle Soppe, like the rest of us, getting ready to get fully engaged in the World Cup. It kind of gets off to a little bit of a trickle this Thursday and Friday, but next week, 3 games every day for the entire week. So it's going to be wild, especially around here. And of course, while Kyle is watching some World Cup, he can prepare for the NBA or the NHL or some baseball as well. But Kyle, we thought we would at least pique your interest here. One selection from you, one selection before we begin the World Cup on Thursday. I know there's something you like.
Yeah, I'm interested in soccer the same way most of the country is right now, in that it's going to be on, and it's like the Olympics. It comes around once in a while. I'm not going to pretend to be any kind of expert soccer handicapper. I played in high school 100 years ago, but that's a million years ago. I work in the numbers business, right? And we've seen this over the last decade or so. The offense has become a little bit more prevalent in World Cups. And to me, Belgium is a team that can score a lot of goals. They've got a dude up top that gets a lot of interest, and we've just seen this trend. And if this trend's going to continue, I think Belgium's sneaky at 40-1 right now. France scored multiple goals in 5 of their 7 games on their way to a win in 2018 and 2022. Argentina did it in 6 out of 7. If a team's going to score a bunch, and that's going to be required, not this defensive nonsense 1-0 boring games for us soccer novices, we're going to get some excitement. I think Belgium can do it, and at 40-1, that's a hefty price tag to get into the round of 16. That just means getting through the group and then winning one more game, minus 150. That's kind of how I'm hedging this bet, so I don't have all my eggs in the 40-1 basket there.
All right, so there you go. Kyle likes Belgium at the World Cup, and of course, our coverage begins here on Thursday on SportsGrid. All right, let's get to some baseball. Full slate of games, everybody in action tonight. We'll start with the Orioles and Mariners, 2 teams that probably we thought would be better than they have been, but are both actually playing a little bit better. Logan Gilbert pitches tonight for Seattle. Trevor Rogers, who went into the season as Baltimore's ace, has not really been that, but seemingly is starting to get it together too. High total tonight in baseball, 8.5. Seattle at Baltimore. Do you have any position?
Yeah, and I've been a sucker for Seattle pitching for 2 or 3 years now, and I'm going to continue to go that route. I don't think Rogers from Baltimore was ever, I mean, he was the ace in title, but I'm not sure he was ever ready for that. Logan Gilbert, maybe not the ace of Seattle, but he's quite good. You're looking at a guy that's only given up 3 earned runs over his last 3 outings. He keeps the ball down, and I think that's what you're going to see in this spot in a hitter's park. Logan Gilbert, to me, can get you 5, 6, even 6.5. You know, he gives you some volume that you don't always see in pitchers in this day and age. So I like him to get it done here, keep him under wraps. I'll go with Seattle money line, and if you're feeling a little frisky, Baltimore team total under.
Okay. Tonight is a very rare occasion in baseball. And by the way, by the time the first pitch is thrown, the Dodgers are probably not going to be plus money. I'm seeing a slight plus on LA. That's like impossible in this day and age. I don't think I've seen plus on the Dodgers at all this season. So that's what's required, is that Paul Skeens has to pitch against them. You know, like that's like the only way. Unless even if they have a bullpen day, generally they're favored. But here you go. You got a shot here if you like LA tonight to get a little plus.
And I think from a process standpoint, you kind of have to. I know that stepping in front of Skeens isn't all that enticing. And the Dodgers, when this thing opened, were favorites, which means the betting public's coming in on Skeens, which I don't blame anybody for doing here. But you're getting the best team in baseball against an average, a decent Pittsburgh team here. So I'm gonna trust the process and go with the Dodgers here. Eric Lauer is opposing Skeens, and it's not as if Eric Lauer is any kind of scrub. A 3.18 ERA last season. He gets into trouble with these home runs and the launch angle and all that good stuff. Analytically, not the greatest pitcher, but you're in PNC Park. Maybe they end on the track tonight. Give me, even if it's got to be late, I'll take plus money and the best team in the sport and be on my way. It's kind of what I'm doing with the Spurs. I just think they're better than the Knicks. They're underdogs. I'll take it. No different here. Maybe parlay them together.
Yankees and Guardians. Yankees walk off yesterday. They're minus 124 tonight as Garrett Cole makes another start for New York, getting stronger and stronger. Does he have enough to get through this one tonight and beat the Guardians, Kyle?
I think he does. You mentioned it, that he's kind of ramping up, and I think we're getting pretty close to midseason, health-wise at least, of Garrett Cole. The offense isn't the same without Aaron Judge these days, but it doesn't have to be when you have Cole on the mound. So I think you're looking at something like 4-3. 3-2, something along those lines. I'm not going to lay the run line, but I will take the favorites on the road here in the Bombers.
And then finally, I don't get it. I haven't been able to get it, and I still don't get it. The Red Sox are favored again. I don't know what I'm missing here at Tampa Bay, Kyle. You tell me. I don't follow.
You're not missing anything. Tampa Bay is as analytically sound as it gets. Boston, just a big market with a big fan base and now a lot of deep pockets. So I will continue to fade Boston right there with you.
Yeah, I'd be fading them moving forward. All right, Kyle, thanks again for coming on. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks.
We'll be right back.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Terrible start last year, injured all the way through, didn't have a chance to win that Major League Baseball season. This year, first team to 20 wins, first team to 30 wins, first team to 40 wins. It's all in the Atlanta Braves. Good baseball club lurking around here.
They still have some guys, some starting pitchers on the shelf there that could help them down the road, but the Braves are sitting pretty right now.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
For Abdul Carter. Hey, son, you want to be a leader? Show up to meetings on time. Don't be late to practice. This guy's sitting there trying to tell me that he's got a problem with Jackson Dart going to a Trump rally when he can't even show up to a meeting on time? And he can't show up to practice and he's late? Dude.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Well, the talk has been about sports betting handle being down or flat, right, because of the threat of prediction markets and the growth of them. But we've seen Kalshi actually kind of plateau for the first time in recent memory. Looking at a graphic right now, we've had the spike for the Super Bowl, and then this is usually when things die down. Yes, there's March Madness, but usually sports betting handle kind of goes down over the course of the spring and summer until we get back to football season.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Always fun to check in on some Major League Baseball action with Peter Apple from Just Baseball as he joins us now. Weekly appearance with us to go over some of the landscape in baseball as well. Peter, great to have you. And let's get started with a little bit of a shift in the National League, and not from a positive perspective, unfortunately, from a negative perspective. We've seen the San Diego Padres, Peter, take quite a dip. They've had some underperforming veterans, very specifically Manny Machado being one of them. The pitching has just been okay. And for the first time in several years, it appears we have to ask questions as to whether or not the Padres will be around for this chase for the postseason. Because, Peter, this is a little bit of a change. And by the way, with an ownership change, too, a big sort of shift with them, it feels like.
Yeah, this is a different Padres team than in years past. And the Padres have always had a really good team, and it's in large part because of the three guys at the top of their lineup, whether that be Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, and Jackson Merrill. However, this year, what's been widely publicized is the fact that Fernando Tatis Jr. only has one home run, but that's not even the biggest issue here, because Tatis, when you look at WRC plus, has been a below average hitter. Manny Machado is, freaking out about all the advanced analytics in baseball, but an easy analytic to use is batting average, where he ranks dead last in Major League Baseball. And then you have Jackson Merrill, who I still believe is this budding star, but last year it was more of a down year compared to his rookie year. He was dealing with injuries, but then this year, it's a 600 OPS. And I look at last night's game against the Reds, even though this team did win, but it was a weird way to win, right? So it's a tie game, 3 straight bunts from their 7, 8, 9 hitters to score a run. And then with no outs, bases loaded, it's Tatis, it's Merrill, and it's Ty France. What do? Out, and they don't score. Now, the Padres still won that game, but I think that sequence is a good symbol of what the Padres are this year. Elite bullpen, best bullpen in Major League Baseball. Yeah. I think a pretty fine starting rotation. However, this offense looks broken, and that, of course, is their biggest problem.
Yeah, and I think, Peter, to expand on that conversation, the difference may be, I don't know if you feel this way, but the difference between this season and every other season is there's a new ownership group in place. And so generally, AJ Preller has been able to just go out, add payroll, trade players. Maybe that's the case this season, but I can't say that for sure. So that's the first time in a decade that I don't know what the Padres are going to be.
I totally agree with you, but one thing that I don't want to underrate is Preller's ability to figure it out. Because AJ Preller, we've seen him be one of the most active, if not the most active general manager, not only at the trade deadline, but in the offseason. And what does Preller do best? He's not as much concerned with the money. It is the players that he has in his system, his top prospects, that he could potentially deal. And it looked like going into the season that the Padres farm system was completely barren of talent because they continued to trade that talent for big leaguers. But of course, here comes some better prospects, especially Ethan Salas, who we just released our top 100 prospects, which you can find on justbaseball.com. And he ranks as high as number 9. Remind anyone of someone, Leo DeVries, who he traded for Mason Miller. Preller has some weapons. Is he going to be able to make the biggest moves like he normally does? Probably not. Is he going to get creative? I think so.
Interesting. All right, we'll see. Let's hit the MVP market in the American League, Peter, where wide open. Like with Judge going out, like this thing is anybody's. And we saw Nick Kurtz hit a couple of home runs. I think this guy's going to get super hot. He's in the mix. Ben Rice is in the mix. Bobby Witt is not even the favorite anymore. It's Yordan Alvarez. This is an incredible race.
It's an incredible race. And when you take Judge out, just like you would take, let's say, Shohei Ohtani out in the National League, it really becomes anybody's game. But when I look at those current odds, I find myself questioning who on that odds list is going to be on a really good team. And what I mean by that is normally the MVP voters are at least going to lean towards a team in the playoff hunt or a team, winning their own division. And I look at the Houston Astros and I see them in 4th place in their division. I look at the Royals and Bobby Witt Jr. and see them in last place in arguably the worst division in all of Major League Baseball. I look at Ben Rice. He's on a great Yankees team, but he's falling behind in the WAR leaderboards because his defense isn't even close to on par. And offensively, he still lags a little bit behind Yordan Alvarez. And then I look at Nick Kurtz, again, in 3rd place in the American League West. I look at Julio Rodriguez. He could potentially be on an American League West winning Mariners team. However, he just lags behind offensively than a lot of these guys. So who do you really key in on? It's really tough to know. So when there's not a clear-cut answer, I'm going to go with the leader in the clubhouse. And I think those odds are slightly wrong. I think it absolutely should be Bobby Witt Jr.'s award right now. Yordan Alvarez is putting up prolific offensive numbers, but he plays a bad left field in DH.
Right.
Bobby Witt Jr. is the best defender in all of sports. And I don't even think Bobby Witt Jr. has gotten fully going offensively yet. So for me, the pick would be Bobby Witt Jr., especially if he is not the favorite. However, at those odds, it's just not that appetizing of a price. So right now I'm waiting, but if you needed a pick right now, it would definitely be Bobby Witt Jr.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just, it's just not enticing enough for me. Like, I want to throw something on Buxton, like, I don't know. I feel like at this stage, someone's got to be better than plus 150. Let's hit the Yankees real quick. 93.5 is their win total, still on the higher side, even without Judge, because I guess there's some expectation that he returns. Again, I don't know the medicals, but I'm skeptical that anything is happening in the next couple of months with him. So they're just going to have to carry the load. But then, Peter, this is a team that I am sure in August is going to put the foot down and say, hey, let's go get some extra players here. I think they'll probably end up winning the East, but I'm not willing to go over on anything else.
Absolutely not. I'm not willing to go over either. You lose Aaron Judge. We've seen this with the Yankees before, right? When Aaron Judge hurt his toe, at Dodger Stadium, and the Yankees went on a big-time slide. Now, will that happen again? We have no idea, but it definitely is not leaning me towards taking any overs currently with the New York Yankees, and it's definitely a time to wait because, as you said, they are going to be extremely active at the deadline. Brian Cashman, he sees Garrett Cole pitching well. He knows Max Fried is great. He sees what he's getting from Cam Schlittler, and that's not even mentioning guys like Will Warren or Ryan Weathers. He's definitely going to be active in the bullpen, and he's going to go and get bats. Now, that's why I've always said it's best to wait on the Yankees because I only think they're going to get better and better, and this would not be the time to invest in them. That's why obviously you saw Aaron Judge's odds come off the MVP boards. So for me with the Yankees, it is sit and wait.
The Paul Skeens discourse is really interesting because he's struggled a lot during the day, but he's pitched well during the night. Peter, we just had Kyle Soppe on the show breaking down some baseball. I have never seen the Dodgers plus money this season. It looks like this is the first time all year, I think, at plus 100, which is not plus money, by the way, I should be honest. Like, this is not really plus money. Skeens is, I don't think Skeens is going to win the Cy Young. The competition is just insane in the NL this year.
It's unbelievable. Christopher Sanchez is pitching out of his mind. He became the 3rd pitcher in MLB history with a scoreless streak going at least 50 innings and the only lefty in MLB history to do so. Now, if we're looking at Paul Skeens, the thing I'm a little bit worried about Skeens right now is his fastball velocity is down a tick. In his last start, he was averaging 96.9 miles an hour, which is awesome, and he's still great. But last year was 98.2, and we've seen that trickle down a little bit. His splitter has also been getting hit. I would actually lean towards the Dodgers, and I think you're getting value on them because, of course, Paul Skeens is on one side, but you just don't want to face the Dodgers. I would go with Dodgers.
Would agree. By the way, real quick, as we depart, is this what we can expect in Vegas going forward with all these runs? Is this what's going to happen in this new ballpark when they end up opening in a few years? 30 runs?
It's second in elevation to Coors Field. I think last game was a little bit much. Not that much, but still, it's going to be a launch pad.
Make sure you check out Peter and all the folks at Just Baseball for the latest in college baseball news and also their mock draft 2.0 coming up in July. That's out at justbaseball.com. Thanks, Peter, for coming on.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Terrible start last year, injured all the way through, didn't have a chance to win that Major League Baseball season. This year, first team to 20 wins, first team to 30 wins, first team to 40 wins. It's all in the Atlanta Braves. Good baseball club lurking around here.
They still have some guys, some starting pitchers on the shelf there that could help them down the road, but the Braves are sitting pretty right now.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
That's for Abdul Carter. Hey, son, you want to be a leader? Show up to meetings on time. Don't be late to practice. This guy's sitting there trying to tell me that he's got a problem with Jackson Dart going to a Trump rally when he can't even show up to a meeting on time? And he can't show up to practice and he's late? Dude.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Well, the talk has been about sports betting handle being down or flat, right, because of the threat of prediction markets and the growth of them. But we've seen Kalshi actually kind of plateau for the first time in recent memory. Looking at a graphic right now, we've had the spike for the Super Bowl, and then this is usually when things die down. Yes, there's March Madness, but usually sports betting handle kind of goes down over the course of the spring and summer until we get back to football season.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
It's like a mini reunion, I would say, here on NewsWire, here on this Tuesday, because we got George Kurtz in the house. Of course, George Kurtz of SportsGrid and fantasy football today. I was thinking about you the other day, George, because we are kind of closing in on fantasy football time. Like I for me, we've been aligned on our thinking here. June was for never the time for fantasy football for me. I know that people start doing stuff in June, but once you get through like the middle of July and some training camp, you start talking some fantasy football. So I wonder if you and I are going to be doing that again soon.
So do I. It'd be nice, right? Now, you and I are agree. I did have a dynasty draft, right? It's a dynasty league. It happens right after the draft, so I did have that draft. I think the next draft for me will be the Scott Fish Bowl. I think that's usually around July 4th offhand. I could be wrong about that.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's my next draft there. But I prefer to draft as late as possible. Once again, there's gonna be injuries, and I want position battles. I want all that to be figured out. But as late as possible is what I prefer, and that's what I try to do in my home league. Get it as late as possible. But as we all know, the hardest thing I do in life is set up a fantasy draft because God forbid everybody should be cooperative.
Yeah, it's time to get that started, by the way, too. So hopefully George and I will be with you throughout the fantasy football season. TBD on that for sure. Like life, TBD. Okay, let's get to some hockey here. George is watching the Stanley Cup Finals, and George is always right. The Stanley Cup tends to be the best championship in all sports. Looks like, again, it's going to happen this year. This is just an incredible 3 games. No favorite. Static total of 5.5 on all these games. You certainly can have an opinion, George, and I want a prediction and I want an opinion, but I got to be honest. I've watched a little bit of this. It feels like a complete guessing game. It feels like these teams are so evenly matched. Carolina is the better team, I think, but Vegas just is not going to go away. I feel like we're in for a long one here.
I would 100% agree with you, and it has been the series we thought it was going to be. All right, I think a lot of us weren't really sure who was going to win, Carolina, Vegas. You mentioned they're pretty even, but we thought lower scoring games. I actually said, it'll be a hockey series. It'll be a lot of 3-2, 2-1 games here. Both teams played good defense that time. It hasn't been that way at all. It's been wide. It's been great for the NHL because it's been fun. Right, we're getting high-scoring games. We're getting hat tricks, penalty shots, power plays that we didn't expect there, and goaltending that's been not so good. All right, I think that's what we're going to be talking about here. We don't know yet for Carolina who's going to be in net tonight, and that is the big question. Will it be Frederik Andersen, who, let's face it, Greg, hasn't played so well? right? He gave up 4 goals in 2 periods, and he actually gave up 6. Remember, 2 goals were disallowed. So he really played that poorly. Brandon Busey came on. He did give up the game winner in double overtime, but that's the only goal he gave up, and that was a fluke. Right, off the backboards, off the skate, in the net. What are you going to do here? So there's a lot of talk. Will it be Anderson? Will it be Busey? Anderson did not practice yesterday. He was not on the ice at all. Carolina, Rob Brindamore was calling it a maintenance day. Okay, little weird to have that during the playoffs for Stanley Cup. Little weird, but we're all waiting. Will it be the veteran Anderson? Will they go back to Busey here? You can make an argument for both. Do you dance with the guy you brought, Anderson,
I agree.
or do you go with the hot guy? I got to tell you, Craig, I think I'd go Busey. I think Anderson's not played all that well. I think but I say I don't know. That's just the guess for me. And by the way,
I know
boys and
that's
girls,
the hard part. Yeah.
If we weren't talking about Anderson, Craig, we'd be talking about Carter Hart, who also hasn't played well. Which is my way of telling you, I'm taking the over tonight. Okay, I don't trust either one. I think they're going to get goals again.
Yeah, no, look, it's everybody is saying the same thing about this series, is that just enjoy the ride here because we don't know. The only thing that I think isn't up for grabs is the Conn Smythe, because unlike some of the other leagues, we've seen the losing a player on a losing team end up winning the Conn Smythe, and not all that long ago with Connor McDavid too. So Mitch Marner is minus 230. So can you make a case for anyone else, George? I feel like this is too deep in a series to take a dart throw on a 5 or 6 to 1. I mean, we're 3 games in.
Well, you're not taking anybody else on Vegas, right? I mean, you can make an argument for Brett Howden, the defenseman, but he's a defenseman that no one's heard of, unless you're a hockey fan, right? You've never heard of Brett Howden. All right, so it's going to be really difficult for him to get it. Marner not only is having the great series, but Craig, it's a great storyline, right? Listen, you and I, we love Cam Stewart right here at the network. Cam, great guy, Toronto Maple Leaf fan, but Cam, you and your Maple Leafs have to be puking in your mouth here, right? Marner, the big bug with Marner is he never did it in the playoffs for the Maple Leafs, right? Even though the numbers tell you he actually kind of did, but he never did it in the playoffs. Now he goes to Vegas first season and might win the Conn Smythe, assuming they win the Cup. I think the bigger question is if Vegas doesn't win, which is not a foregone conclusion. Carolina could come back and win the series. Who is it? Still Marner? You're right. Losing players could still win it. It's Conn Smythe best for the playoffs, not the Stanley Cup. Best overall for the playoffs here. But if you're going to go that direction, Craig, who won Carolina? That's the tough part. Who won Carolina? It can't be Anderson. Hasn't played all that well. I think there would still to be determined if it's going to be Carolina over who would play well over the next 4 games. So that's the tough part here. It would be a dart throw right now if you're going to go with that. Probably Taylor Hall would be my favorite for Carolina if you want to go that direction. But he's been a little quiet. The Stanley Cup was better in the first couple of rounds here. But Marner is by far the favorite to win the Conn Smythe.
We're going to have a little fun as we wrap it up here, George, with a game that naturally we would never preview because there's so many better ones on the board. But not tonight. A total of 13 in a Major League Baseball game. Highest of the Major League Baseball season. This is it tonight. Last night was 12. Tonight is 13. You got the Brewers and A's, and the pitching isn't as good as it was last night. What are you going to do with this one, George? A lot of home runs. The A's were like the old swinging A's, hitting a bunch of bombs. Even Milwaukee's offense, I think they're last in the big leagues in home runs. Even they were hitting home runs yesterday.
That's a key stat there, right? They don't usually hit home runs, and they were. This game was at 12 last night. If you were on it while watching the A's and Brewers, it was actually 12. It went up to 13 overnight. All right, so I got it at 12. I got to tell you, it stinks. It just smells. Why isn't it higher? There were 29 runs last night. You said Kyle Harrison was pitching, right? There's 29. They both did this. I think they do it again tonight. It's Vegas. The ball's going to travel here. So yeah, I'm on the over. I'm on the alternate over. I went up to 15. I think I went up to 15. So I have a few overs bet here. No choice until you prove to me this makes Coors Field look like the Grand Canyon. All right. So yeah, it was a lot of runs last night. It was a fun game. I didn't want it to end. It lasted after 2 a.m. Eastern time, and I didn't want it to end. It was fun to watch here. I think they're going to do it again tonight. Maybe not 29, but I think we're getting close to 20.
Yeah, I cannot imagine this total sitting at 13 when they throw out the first pitch tonight, 10 o'clock Eastern. All right, George, enjoy the hockey and the baseball tonight. We'll talk soon.
And time.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Terrible start last year, injured all the way through, didn't have a chance to win that Major League Baseball season. This year, first team to 20 wins, first team to 30 wins, first team to 40 wins. It's all in the Atlanta Braves. Good baseball club lurking around here.
They still have some guys, some starting pitchers on the shelf there that could help them down the road, but the Braves are sitting pretty right now.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
That's for Abdul Carter. Hey, son, you want to be a leader? Show up to meetings on time. Don't be late to practice. This guy's sitting there trying to tell me that he's got a problem with Jackson Dart going to a Trump rally when he can't even show up to a meeting on time? And he can't show up to practice and he's late? Dude.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Well, the talk has been about sports betting handle being down or flat, right, because of the threat of prediction markets and the growth of them. But we've seen Kalshi actually kind of plateau for the first time in recent memory. Looking at a graphic right now, we've had the spike for the Super Bowl, and then this is usually when things die down. Yes, there's March Madness, but usually sports betting handle kind of goes down over the course of the spring and summer until we get back to football season.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. You know, Reggie Miller was like the ultimate villain at Madison Square Garden. Is that fair? Probably going back in the 90s. It's funny that there's been no villain for the last 20 years, but here we go. It could be Wemby. Wemby having the big game and pulling out a win for his Spurs and says that, yeah, he's the new villain at MSG.
They got Knicks fans very riled up throughout the game. At one point, there was a colorful chant directed towards you. It seems as though you may be New York's newest villain. Is that kind of the ultimate compliment?
I guess I'm nowhere near Trae Young level, though.
Good stuff from Wemby there. One other note here, by the way, before we hit some last licks. This story came out late yesterday. I wanted to bring it back to the show. In case you missed it yesterday, Brendan Sorsby, who bet on sports allegedly, is allowed to play college football next season. And this is like stirring everything up, and probably for good reason. And so because a judge in Texas is allowing him to play, suspended for the first 2 games, but allowing him to play the season after being caught betting on sports, the conference, the Big 12, the teams in the conference are saying that if he's allowed to play, we may not play them. Wow. How about that? An entire conference aligning saying that if the rules don't work for him, we're not going to play within the rules. And the Southeastern Conference is saying the same thing. So is it possible that we haven't heard the last of this story? Again, Sorsby is going to play college football this season. He will not play the first 2 games. But if he's allowed to play after being caught betting, it kind of opens up that door for everything else. All right, let's wrap up the show with a historical day for a low-level kicker in football and also a little WNBA discussion. It's time now for some last licks. All right, you know my feeling on this minor league football stuff. I try to avoid it as much as possible here on the show because it's just one league after the next getting canceled. That's what I think. But the UFL is back again this year. Remember, they were close to not playing again, but I guess their season is underway. They have a kicker. His name is Tanner Brown. He's playing on the Louisville Kings. And I missed this yesterday, so I wanted to bring it back today. If you missed the game Sunday, which you did, of course, because who watches the UFL, he ended up kicking 2 field goals, which is not a big deal. But the field goals themselves were 60 yards and 63 yards. It's the first time any kicker at any level, non-college, has kicked 2 60-yard field goals in a game. Also, keep in mind, if you do this in the UFL, you get some extra points. 60-yarders are worth 4 points. Brandon Aubrey of the Cowboys holds the record for all-time 60-plus yard field goals. But I'm going to tell you this. This kid right here, Tanner Brown, don't know if he's going to be playing in the NFL next season, but I can tell you he's going to be in training camp with somebody. I can guarantee you that. All right. The Portland Fire is the next expansion team in the WNBA, and they're ready for you to become their next mascot. Let me tell you all about it. Applicants will submit a video reel, and the finalist will be invited for a tryout. It pays between $100 to $130 an hour, and also it's a part-time role. They're saying that you got to fill out a W-9. They're saying that it's going to be fun. And $100, $130 an hour for a mascot, I don't know. Like, it's not horrible. I'm not going to say that. It's not horrible, but it's also not a ton of money to wear that suit every single day. Maybe Chris will do that part-time. Throw a Portland mascot. You got to go to Portland, though. I don't know if I want to do that as well. All right, Chris is in. Maybe Pat is in, too. Okay, Paul Skeens yesterday, out of nowhere, was driving by a Little League baseball field and saw some lights on. Paul Skeens said, you know what? I'm just going to pull in that parking lot. And he did. How about that? Signed for 2 hours, signed autographs, took pictures, no cameras, and just decided to play catch with the kids. Paul Skeens, one of the better dudes around the big leagues, doesn't have to be a camera, and the guy just doing something nice for the kids. I always love to see that, and I always get impressed with those sort of stories as well. All right, that will do it for our show today. I want to thank Kyle Soppe and Peter Apple and George Kurtz. Those were our guests here on the show. Quick programming note, we will be back here for our next edition of NewsWire tomorrow. But then starting on Thursday, we begin World Cup coverage here. So NewsWire will be taking a hiatus. And so for the next few weeks or so, there will be no NewsWire from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern. Instead, we will have World Cup coverage. I'll be shifting over and hosting the early line. So make sure you catch me there starting on Friday. Okay, did you get that? If not, I'll say it again tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks to Pat. Thanks to, of course, Frank. And for Chris, I'm Craig Mish. Enjoy the rest of your night. See you tomorrow.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Terrible start last year, injured all the way through, didn't have a chance to win that Major League Baseball season. This year, first team to 20 wins, first team to 30 wins, first team to 40 wins. It's all in the Atlanta Braves. Good baseball club lurking around here.
They still have some guys, some starting pitchers on the shelf there that could help them down the road, but the Braves are sitting pretty right now.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
For Abdul Carter. Hey, son, you want to be a leader? Show up to meetings on time. Don't be late to practice. This guy's sitting there trying to tell me that he's got a problem with Jackson Dart going to a Trump rally when he can't even show up to a meeting on time? And he can't show up to practice and he's late? Dude.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Well, the talk has been about sports betting handle being down or flat, right, because of the threat of prediction markets and the growth of them. But we've seen Kalshi actually kind of plateau for the first time in recent memory. Looking at a graphic right now, we've had the spike for the Super Bowl, and then this is usually when things die down. Yes, there's March Madness, but usually sports betting handle kind of goes down over the course of the spring and summer until we get back to football season.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.